All right, here we go, people. Ade Gman episode. I always forget this. I think it's 16.
16. Last
16.
week was a good one. It was 15. So we're into 16 now.
We are into 16. And let's get straight into it because there's quite a lot to discuss on this week's episode. Let's start with the boxing on the weekend. I was in Nottingham, the Motorpoint Arena. Fantastic. Honestly, in terms of loud arenas, I'd still edge to the first direct in Leeds when Josh Warrington fights. I think that's just incredible, and it's quite a gladiatorial kind of venue. Like, it's all on just one side. Then there's the ring there, but the Motorpoint, which is basically full of football fans, was incredible again on Saturday. Honestly, it's football fans, and they turned out. I think there's about 8,000 or 9,000 in there, and you know, a lot of people had gone into the fight CACACE winning. So the fact they still turned up, even though they probably knew what the outcome was going to be, I think it's testament to the kind of fans that Leigh has.
It's testament to the fans he has, and I guess the fans were hoping that them being there would probably give him that 1% to win, because I think we all made Katche favourite. It didn't, but boy, was it still a good fight nonetheless. I enjoyed every minute of that fight.
Yeah, Katche just honestly just far too big. Like, his shoulders are massive. Like, they weighed in the same 129.8. I can tell straight away there was about 6 or 7 pounds, maybe more, in the ring on the night. And he just looked too big, too sharp. Feet were too good. Hands were too good. And when it went into what you think might help Leigh, like a bit of a tear up, he just landed the bigger and telling shots. Like, it was probably a better performance than Josh Warrington and Joe Cordina.
I think it was, and I think he knew he needed to be on his A game, even though Leigh Wood had been inactive. Man, we forget people had Leigh Wood as Britain's pound for pound ahead of Tyson Fury at one point. So it's not like, you know, and people genuinely did do that, you know, about 2 years ago. So it's not like he's going in with just, you know, a faded fighter, and he's going in there with a guy who on his day could be one of the best fighters in Britain. So he needed to be 100%. He even said in the post-fight, Anthony Katche, that's not the best version of Leigh Wood, but it shows he still needed to be on his A game just to be able to do what he did.
I like that honesty from Katche as well. Like, you're right. When I put it to him and he kind of pointed at Leigh was sort of in the corner, he looked at him and said, that's not the best version. I thought that was quite respectful. Like, I beat you, but I appreciate that you're not the guy that fought Zhu Can or Michael Condon. You're a guy that's moving up in weight class. You're a guy that's not fought in 19 months. And you're a guy that's coming off an injury as well. So I thought that was very respectful from both of them. I thought both of their post-fight interviews were classy. Before we talk Katche, let's just focus on Leigh Wood. Is that it? Or do you feel like he might say, you know, I was 19 months out of the ring, you know, coming off an injury? Like, what does he do, you think?
I think that's a hard comeback, because it wasn't like Lara the first time where he was in control of that fight and he got caught with a shot, he got taken out. And even then people were saying Davison was a bit early with the towel coming in. He was really beaten in there. Like, he had a few moments of success, but for the most part he was beaten up in there. He looked the older guy. And I think that if Leigh Wood plans on sticking around, I think his next fight should be just a kind of a farewell fight. Farewell to Nottingham, farewell to everyone again. It's a bit like how Anthony Crolla went out in Manchester. A gimme fight. I can go out, I can give the fans something good to remember me by, instead of me going out, you know, being stopped like that. Because I don't think you can come back from that. I think at 36 miles on the clock, that's another hard fight, a stoppage loss. I don't think you can come back and have a good run. I think the best thing is just come back, a little goodbye fight, and that's it.
Yeah. Do you obviously look? Josh Warrington came back recently, right? And Josh Warrington's record up until that point a lot worse than Leigh Wood's record. But Josh Warrington came back, and there's a lot of talk about Josh Warrington potentially versus Conlon. Do you just do Josh Warrington versus Leigh Wood as almost like a farewell to both next? I mean, Josh Warrington will still get the Leeds fans, you'll get the Forest fans, you could do it at the Motorpoint. Do you just do that?
To be honest with you, yeah, I think so, because I tell you, I've no faith that Conlon won't take a loss before he fights Josh Warrington. Do you know that? He's fighting for European title. I have no faith in him. So if Conlon loses, and he's fighting, I think, in June, July, if he loses, then just do it. Make the Leigh Wood versus Josh Warrington 2 fight. And I think that is a great way for both guys to go out, because I think the first fight was good. I think this fight might actually be even better, because both guys have diminished a bit. And I think if they put on a good spectacle, in whether it's in Leeds or Nottingham, no one loses in that scenario. Like, there'll be a winner.
Just a fun fight.
Exactly. there'd be a winner, but no one really truly loses in that. And I think it's a great way to go out.
Yeah.
Eddie and Frank, there you go.
Yeah, that's true indeed, right? And
Yep.
look, not all fights have to be title fights. Not all fights have to be a fight that kind of propels you to the next level. Sometimes you can just put two people in with each other that you know is going to almost produce magic. And I think those two stylistically will be a good fight. Again, it'll be a good crowd, and I think it'll be the best way for both of them to go out. I think Lee will want that one more. I could see it in his eyes when I was asking him, and no one wants to go out with a defeat. And he's got the built-in excuse of, guys, look, it was 19 months out of the ring. Like, that's fair, because before that, he was fighting every 3 or 4 months. Now it's like, whoa, look, I took so long out of the ring. I wasn't sharp enough. So I think he's going to want to say, give me a proper camp, no injuries, and then I'll show you what I can do. All right, what about your countryman, Anthony Katche, who look at the smile. Jeez, he's a man on a tear. Honestly, I mean, he is just taking souls right now.
He's absolutely, I mean, Joe Cordina, Josh Warrington, Lee Wood, man's not playing around. And he is beating these guys up. Again, I like what he said. He's like, show me the money and I'll fight anybody. So he's just saying it out straight. He's like, you want me, pay me, and I'll fight you. It's as simple as that. And Frank was trying to say, get him a homecoming in Belfast. I think, man, if anyone deserves a homecoming in Belfast, it's him. Man, get him to Belfast, get him a big fight in Belfast against whoever it may be. But I would love to sit, man. There's so many good fights at 130. And if he decides to move up, even at 135, because he's a unit, man. He could do 135, no problem. He would not be small in that division.
No, not at all. Not at all. Dude, I've been around. I've been around Javante. I've been around Shakur. Keyshawn's probably as big. He's probably the only one. I've been around Loma. He's much bigger than all those guys. Like, he clearly walks around a bit bigger than all those guys as well. He just has the ability to make 130 pounds. I spoke to him the other day and I was like, Shaki Foster, maybe the WBC champion. And he was a bit like, he's not really the big name of Shaki Foster. There isn't really a massive name in the 130-pound division. There isn't, unfortunately. So maybe he is looking at some of those lightweights and thinking, if he can't get one to Belfast, he would go over to America and have that big American sort of date that every fighter seems to still crave. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him.
And the problem is, it's a weird one, as you say, because there's names like Nick Ball at 126, and then there's names like even William Cepeda. Could you imagine that fight at 135? And then you've 130, which is just kind of meh. Yeah. There's no big names, and you're like, oh my God, below you there's great names, above you there's great names, but where you are, it's just like you've kind of done everything you need to do in terms of big names. Literally, the three of them are the biggest names you're going to get. So I think he is holding, because he even said it to you in the interview. He was like, I want that American date. Even when Frank was saying Belfast, he was like, America. Like, there is that thing. Everyone still wants it. Yeah, no.
And I get it as well. I think he looks at an American date with sort of dollar signs and just your name being lit up on the strip, right? Who doesn't want that? So, and I get it. Yes, the homecoming in Belfast is exciting, but I think he's probably thinking, get me to America, and then maybe the swan song in Belfast. Maybe we do that, because look, as good as he looks, he knows he's only got 2 or 3 fights left as well. He's 36, so there's not long left in CACACE. But right now, he's on a roll. Congratulations to him. I'm always happy when one of the good guys starts to eat a little bit from this sport, because this sport takes a lot from people. So when people can take from the sport, I'm all for it. Ezra Taylor, chief support, co-main event against Troy Jones. Ezra looks like he's the guy that's going to take that baton for the Nottingham crowd, at least from Lee Wood. How did you think Ezra looked?
Very ordinary.
Ooh,
very ordinary. I wasn't too impressed with him. Like, I mean, it was a decent-ish performance, but I look at Ezra Taylor and I just think, you ain't. But saying that, I would have said that about Lee Wood 6-7 years ago, because he was struggling at domestic level. So you never know, but just based upon that performance, I was like, nah, I don't think Ezra Taylor, I don't think he's the guy. I think that, in the light heavyweight division, God, an informed Dan as he is. I mean, I don't even know if I take him over that. I genuinely hand on heart. Lewis Edmondson, or I think Edmondson is the name, is the British champion.
Louis Edmondson.
I don't even know if I take Ezra Taylor over him. Seriously.
Damn. Okay. Look, that's interesting, because I thought he started off a bit rough. I felt like he got bullied bullied a bit to the, always getting taken back to the ropes. And then I actually thought he sort of weathered a little storm, then come back. He came, I thought, good down the stretch. But what he does have, and I guess we'll find out very soon, because the top 15 in this country is stacked. Like honestly, you go from 1 to 15 and their names all from top to bottom. So we're going to find out in his next fight just how good he is, whether it be Louis Edmondson, whether it be a Craig Richards, whether it be Dan Aziz, those type of fighters. I guess we're going to find out. I know they're wanting to try and get him versus Ben Whittaker. That's the one they're trying to build. I know. That's a risky one, because Ben so fast. Ben's very big at the weight as well. I mean, Ezra's not small at the weight, but Ben's incredibly big at the weight. And Ben probably has, and I guess the Olympic silver medal would tell me he's got better boxing ability than Ezra. My only concern for Ezra is that he's 30, which isn't old.
No,
but it's not young either.
For a light heavyweight, 30, you would kind of be saying it's not old, but get a move on. Don't dilly dally. You can't afford a year of nothing, a year of messing around with journeyman or something like that. You can't really afford that, but it's not a game changer in terms of age yet.
Okay. Look, we'll see how Ezra plays out. All right, the big news that's kind of been floating around in the last couple of weeks, but in the last sort of 5 or 6 days has become really big, is this Manny Pacquiao comeback. Manny Pacquiao now being installed by the WBC as their number 5 in their most recent welterweight rankings. He will fight Mario Barrios. We're here in July 19th. Undercard's going to have like Sebastian Vendora versus Tim Tszyu. Pitbull's going to be undercard as well, so it's a good card. I've said so much about it on my own channels. I'm so desperate to get your thoughts on it before I kind of just lose the plot. What's your thoughts on this Manny Pacquiao return?
I can't believe it. And he's ranked 5th by the WBC. He hasn't fought a WBC sanctioned bout in how many years? A decade? Against Floyd was the last time a WBC title of anything was on the line.
Oh, wow.
And he's 46 years old, lost his last fight 4 years ago to UGAS, and he is in there above guys who've been fighting regularly. And I've said this before about the WBC, right? You're a sanctioning body. You want up-and-coming fighters. You want fighters with a name to want to win your belt, to want to pay sanctioning fees and fight for your title. How is anyone going to want to fight a WBC sanctioned bout if it's like, well, I'll have to wait 2 years for my mandatory and they're just going to give my shot to a retired fighter anyway? So what's the point? I'll go down the WBO or the IBF route. It's crazy. Manny Pacquiao, I hate it. Like, I love Manny Pacquiao as a fighter, but a retired fighter, retired for however many years, 46 years old, should not be able to just snap his hands and say, right, give me a world title crack, and sanction bodies just fold. You can't do that. If he was active and maybe was, say, out of the ring for a year and he'd won his last fight and say he was 40, I might say, do you know what? Like, he's been active, he's been fighting whoever. So, all right, go for it. I think he should be retiring, but go for it. He's been active for 4 years. He retired. There's what the hell? And people saying, oh, but he's a legend. So who cares if he's a legend? He's not fought anyone for 4 and a bit years, or for 4 years, not fought a WBC sanctioned bout for even longer. And he's bypassed fighters who are, fighting in the rankings to try and actually gain a mandatory shot. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't know about the 10 years not fighting for the WBC. That even makes it just doubly worse. Yeah, I'm mortified by it. I'm so angry about the situation. Like, I see Mauricio Suleiman at a lot of events, and I always go up to him and speak to him. I think, he's a nice guy. I think what he does for a lot of the retired boxers is kind of not spoken about enough. He does do a lot, or at least the WBC and their team do a lot. But I think this is one of the most outrageous decisions that they've ever done. And they've done some bad ones in the past, but this one's bad. And it's bad for so many reasons. Look, the WBC, and I was saying this to Ariel when we filmed, I said, look, the WBC isn't the oldest belt, right? That's the WBA, but it's the most prestigious. When you think of belts, you think of the green and gold, right? We grew up with seeing Mike Tyson with it, Floyd Mayweather with it. It's like, oh my God, this is the belt everyone wants to win. This changes my opinion on them. As you say, Manny Pacquiao, he hasn't won a fight for 6 years. He didn't look good against Ugas when he lost 4 years ago. But worse than that, he had an exhibition fight last year, and he got bashed up in an exhibition fight, and they kind of gave it a draw. One of those ones where there's no judges.
No winner.
Yeah, no winner, right? And he got bashed up in that. And I remember everyone saying, oh, I hope we don't see Manny Pacquiao in an exhibition fight again. Not a real fight, an exhibition. People were saying, no more exhibition fights for him, because there was a lot of talk about him versus Floyd. How have we gone from no more exhibition fights to you having a real fight against a real champion and someone sanctioning it? Like, this fight is likely to be in Vegas. Nevada State Athletic Commission are going to license him. Now, Nevada's one of the best, one of the hardest, but yet somehow he's going to get around that and get a license to fight as a 46-year-old. Honestly, everyone should be embarrassed that's associated with this fight.
Everyone should be embarrassed. And again, I go back to consistency with sanctioning bodies, with state athletic commissions. If you and the Nevada State Athletic Commission say are not going to allow a fighter to do a hard weight cut, but you'll allow a 46-year-old inactive fighter to challenge for a world title, which is worse? Sorry, and I don't agree with fighters cutting a crazy amount of weight, but which is actually worse if you really think about it? Where's the consistency there? There is none. And the same with the WBC. You know, Tony Bellew, who we all know very well, he moved up to heavyweight to fight David Haye, and WBC were like, right, well, belt gone, you can't do that, right? Okay, fair enough. They made him champion in recess, and he was back to cruiserweight a year later to fight Usyk. So that worked, right? This is like someone, as I said, not fought, hasn't won a WBC belt in over a decade, and now it's just like, there you go, click of the fingers, here you go, you're good to go. It's ridiculous. I remember
when, and I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was the WBC. Might have been. Anyway, I remember when Munguia was unbeaten, and Munguia was 154 pounds, and he wanted to go up and fight Gennady Golovkin at 160, yes. And they blocked it. They was like, nope, can't happen. Munguia's not like, it's just, it might have been the WBC. They blocked that, yet they're letting this happen. And let's be honest, the only reason they're letting this happen is because this fight is going to do great numbers, and they're going to get their percentage of the sanctioning fees, and they're going to walk away happy. And look, I've said for many years, and fighters always want to come back. Deontay Wilder's going to have a comeback fight next month. You know, fighters always want to come back. It's up to sanctioning bodies. It's up to athletic commissions, promoters, managers, broadcast networks to say, you ain't coming back. You ain't coming back. This sport's dangerous enough, and we need to limit the danger. All they're doing is putting Manny Pacquiao in front of a live dog in Barrios who's going to try and hurt him. He's going to really try and make a statement, and everyone needs to be careful with this. Like, if Freddie Roach is in Manny Pacquiao's corner, he's got to be sure and ready to pull him out as soon as possible.
Well, you took the words in my mouth. I was going to add to that and say the friends and family in the corner, man, because I know they're eating off it, but they should still have the integrity to say, you're 46 years old, you're getting bashed up. I can't be part of this. Like Freddie Roach, I'm sure Freddie Roach will if it came to it, but surely they have to look at this situation and say the same. It's like, the sanctioned bodies might let you, but we are not going to let you. We as people are going to tell you, you can't do this. And I just think that needs to happen. It's a conversation that needs to be had. It's one thing to go for a run and hit the bag and feel good doing it. It's another thing to be in there. Mario Barrios is 29 years old. It's you can't get away from that. You know, I mean, look, Manny Pacquiao would be graduating in the UK. He'd be literally going into college or I think uni when Mario Barrios was born. So there you go. Like, I mean, you're not going to have a chance. He might be the weakest champion at 147, but man, you're 46 years old. No fights for 4 years.
And he's still a champion. Like, he might be the weakest, but he's still a champion. What saddens me about all of this is, look, he's clearly doing this for financial reasons, right? He's not doing this because he wants to have a fight. All his money was blown. I think I want to give him the excuse and say it was a presidential campaign, but I'm hearing other things as well. But let's just say the presidential campaign, right? Boxing needs to find a way of like a pension pot for these fighters where every single purse, someone just takes away 10%. Obviously, someone they trust, because we know how bad boxing is. And at the end of their career, someone just gives them that money and says, here you go. Here was your 10% from all your fights. This is your pension pot. Because boxing is littered with fighters that come to the end of their career and are chasing that one more payday because they splundered all their money on bad investments or crooked managers or promoters. Boxing needs a world governing body that helps fighters put money away. And when they're done, and they are done, here's the money we put away from you. It needs something like that. How can Manny Pacquiao make nearly $500 million in his career and is coming back for money?
I know that's the first thing I thought of as well as you. Same with you when I was like, because we hear rumors and they're rumors. We don't know how true they are. This fighter's struggling financially. we've been hearing that about Pacquiao for a long time, and then the presidential campaign that really didn't help. So it's put him in a position where he needs to do this. Listen, I think he could still make decent money. Just, I don't want to say him do the exhibitions, but he probably still make decent money doing that. Why not just do that? Why do this? Like, how big a payday is needed? Like, how many millions do you actually need?
Clearly a lot, dude. Clearly a lot. I mean, the fact you're right. The fact he's doing this as opposed to doing an exhibition fight with an Amir Khan or, you know, one of those type of people. The fact he's doing this says that he is in sort of dire straits when it comes to his financial situation. But look, we can go back and forth for Manny Pacquiao. It's happening. Me and G-Man will no doubt talk about it as we get closer to that date. Again, we're here in July 19th. Another fighter wanting to come back. This is clearly not as bad as Manny Pacquiao. Is Billy Joe Saunders. Frank Warren said that Billy Joe Saunders potentially, after a couple warm-up fights, could make 175 pounds. I know you've had your say on your channel about Billy Joe Saunders. The guy that I saw trying to go into Eubank's dressing room was about 220. That guy ain't coming back. I'm sorry. When did he fight Canelo? Was it 4 years ago or 3 years ago?
Over 4 years ago. 220. You're very generous with that, aren't you? I'm thinking more like 230, 240.
You know, maybe because you forget he is about 5'10", 5'11". He's not short by any stretch of the imagination. So you're right, maybe about 230.
Man, the guy I seen going into that locker room trying to nap or pushing him back. He ain't getting someone. I did a video on this and I said he's trying to come back at light heavyweight. And one of the best comments, most savage comments said, the word light and Billy Joe Saunders in this day and age just don't go together. And I'm like, yep, pretty much. If he could, by some miraculous miracle, get that weight off, and it would take about a year, really, to get down to that weight, he is going to look. I keep saying, people say Eubank's looking a bit bad, and you know he's looking, and I think he is. I think he's looking faded. Eubank will look like a prime Roy Jones in comparison to how Billy Joe will look in terms of everything. He will look. I can't emphasize enough how bad he's going to look if he comes back. It's going to be shocking.
It's going to be horrendous. And let's be honest, he's not been living like a nun for the last 4 years, has he? Like, you know, it's not like he's out there, you know, sticking to a strict diet and counting his calories. Yeah. I mean, this guy's clearly been enjoying life. So the idea of pressing pause on that, I think, is going to be an issue. And as you say, shedding all that weight. I mean, we saw Tyson Fury do it. So it can be done. I mean, let's be real. It can be done. And Tyson Fury was in a worse condition and he was doing worse of things, I think it's fair to say, outside the ring. So we have seen an idea. Like if someone showed me that picture of Fury when he was nearly 30 stone and said that guy's going to come back and beat Wilder and be in wars with Usyk, I'd have said you're crazy. So we have seen it done before.
Okay, you're 100% right, but there's two main factors. One, Tyson was what, 28, 29 when that happened, maybe 30. Billy Joe was in his mid-30s now. I think he's 35, 36. And second, Fury as a heavyweight, he could take the weight off and maybe not feel the best, but he is not having to hit a specific weight. Billy Joe has to do that. So there's a big difference. Like his first fight with Cephas Fury, as bad as he looked, that was him just normal. You know, I'm standing here normal, 275. Billy Joe, they could say, right, for this comeback fight, you need to weigh 180. Where the hell am I going to get to one? How the hell am I even going to get to 190? How am I going to get minus 200? It's different in that way. The weight makers.
And look, for the record, I don't think he comes back. We've been hearing this with Billy Joe for the last 2 years, right? I think he's spoken to Eddie, he's spoken to Frank, he's spoken to Ben Shalom. Like he's clearly spoken to everyone. He's doing the rounds, trying to get out who's going to offer him the most money, basically, to kind of have a comeback on their platform. I don't think it happens, but we have to speak about it because it is in the news. Another big talking point in the news. And again, this is from Frank Warren, this one. So this is not me and G-Man making it up. Frank Warren was asked about Moses ITAUMA versus Martin Bakoli. And Frank Warren was like, and I quote, "I would make that fight in a heartbeat." Like no hesitation whatsoever to get the biggest prospect, I think, in world boxing in there with a guy that I still think, if he were to lose weight, can still do some damage. What do you make of this? Too early for Moses? Could it happen? Is this Frank putting things out there that aren't going to happen? Or has there been some sort of conversation on either side?
Oh, mate. If the Bakoli who fought Jagba turned up, I would take Moses ITAUMA to win. If the Bakoli who turned up against Anderson, I'd be cursing Frank Warren for saying, "What in God's name did you do that for?"
Yeah.
It's too big.
Are we getting too? Are we jumping the gun here so quick on Moses?
Yeah, but
no. I'm even saying that the Bakoli, Ajagba Bakoli, like that's still FA Ajagba. FA Jagba's no scrub. FA Jagba's the top 15 heavyweight by most people's ranking system. So even if it's the 300-pound Bakoli, that's still a very, very dangerous Bakoli, considering the biggest win for Moses is Dempsey McKean.
That is still a very dangerous Bakoli, but I think the power and the speed of ITAUMA is a different factor. Speed, like, I love, you're 100% right. FA Jagba was a great fighter, but he's very robotic. He moved a lot in that fight. He wasn't really using much, aggression or anything like that. ITAUMA, listen, the speed difference between ITAUMA and a 300-pound Bakoli would be insane, man. It would be insane, the speed difference. And I think he just overwhelmed that version of Bakoli. But what annoys me is most of ITAUMA wanted to break Mike Tyson's record. He's not going to do that now. He physically can't do it, right? So now there's no point to push him as quick. I don't see why we can't look at Jamie TKV, David LEIGH winner. That's domestic level. That's perfect. He's 20 years old.
Yeah, win the British title. Yeah, win the British title like everyone's done. Win that British title like AJ did, like Fury did, like Lennox Lewis did. Like win it. I think Lennox did it. I'm not quite sure actually, but like like other people have done, and then have gone on to win world titles. That there is no rush. I agree. I mean, you got Fraser Clark out there, you got TKV, you got David Adelaide. Like, go through those guys, and then Martin Bakoli.
And think of it like this, right? Jared Anderson, when he fought Bakoli, right? Only about a year or so prior, Bob Arum was saying, "I'm going to rein Jared Anderson in a bit," because he had that shaky performance against Charles Martin, and they brought him down a couple of levels, and he was going fine. And then they just decided put him in with Bakoli. I was like, no. And look what we've seen. We've seen Anderson last time. I thought he looked awful. And he's still in his mid-20s.
I saw a photo with Billy Nelson. I said this on my channel, so apologies for repeating myself. I saw a photo with Billy Nelson, Bakoli, and Turkey after the fight. They were talking, and I met Billy at the airport, and I was like, what was that about? And he said, "Oh, Turkey said, there's a big fight coming, something special." I just wonder if it's that. I honestly just wonder, like Moses has got this Mike Balogan next weekend, and if he blitzes him, I wonder if they're going to try and make a big fight very quickly with Moses, maybe a headline act with Bakoli. It's risky. I don't like it personally. I don't like it.
I don't like it
because I think if I'm Bakoli, I'm like, okay, you think I'm done? You think I can't lose the weight? Okay, watch this. If he gets anywhere near the 280 he was for Jared Anderson, he's a nightmare. He's still a nightmare. He's not exactly 50. Do you know what I mean? He's still quite fresh. He's not had that much damage in fights. I think they need to rein it in a little bit with Moses, because I don't want us to kill off one of our best prospects we've had in years.
One of the best prospects we have in years. And what is the best way to ruin a good prospect? Bad matchmaking. Derail a prospect with bad matchmaking, and you may never get him back again. He's only 20. There's no rush, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
I hope it's just Frank. Because Frank was, whenever they mentioned Dubois and Bakoli, Frank was always, So he would, for ITAUMA, Frank knows, Frank's building for the future. I'm hoping maybe some of it is a bit of just, we would, easy. We're not gonna, but he'll say it for the camera.
Yeah, and it's worked because it's trending. It's literally gone crazy, that one. Me and G-Man actually spoke about this guy prior to coming on, and I was like, I don't really want to speak about him, but I'm going to mention him. I'm going to mention him, Mr. Tyson Fury. There is a photo circulating, Ring Magazine photo that they've posted where he does look in great shape. But Fury's done this to me before. Every time I'm like, he looks like he's in great shape. And then he turns up at the weigh-in, or I see him face to face, and I'm like, did you edit your photos? Because all of a sudden, the muscle definition's gone, the belly looks like it's a bit bigger. But I will say this, if this isn't out of camp Tyson Fury, and it is out of camp, in camp Tyson Fury is going to look incredible if this photo is real.
It's weird the way certain fighters who are known for kind of ballooning in between fights, when they quote unquote retire, they seem to just stay in really good shape. It's really weird. Kell Brook is an example. I never see him out of shape these days. If that is Tyson Fury now, and it kind of, look, John Fury's back in the camp as well. He was in that picture. I think he looked good. And no, going into the Usyk rematch, it was noticeable that he was heavier in the kickoff shows. So you couldn't look at him and say he looks lean, because you could tell he wasn't. I think he is looking lean. I think he's realized, maybe John, because John was adamant that he was too heavy for the Usyk fight. I think he's thinking, right, stay at a good weight, keep in camp, because he looked good. Even with the shirt on, I was like, damn, he's not Joe Six-Pack, but he's looking, by his standards, really good. I'd love to see some of the footage of how he looks.
Yeah, exactly. That's the indicator. Video footage, not a photo. I need to see video footage, because those ones are harder to edit. What's crazy right now is that AJ's clearly in some sort of camp right now. Like, AJ is constantly training. Like, all I see on AJ's Instagram is him training. Fury is now all of a sudden training. Are they just trying to tease us, or is something happening behind the scenes that is almost far too big for me to even know? Like, they won't even whisper it to me, because they know that I will go off the rails. Because I'm seeing both guys, one supposedly retired, yet all he does is post photos that he's in shape, and one supposedly is injured, yet all I see him do is spar, hit the bag, and do weights. Something's going on, G, man. I'm not having it. Something's going on.
I think that Chris Eubanks Sr., when he did that WWE style entrance, has everyone in that mindset of like, wait for the drama to film. Now we're going to announce AJ Fury. Glass shatters. There you go. Steve Austin's music hits. There you go. Jim Ross. Good Lord. That's what they're doing.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised. I would love that. I'm kind of tired of the Dan Raphaels and Mike Coppingers telling us before it's announced. Like, almost leaking the story. No. Let me just see a fucking fight poster like I used to 20 years ago. Don't leak it before the broadcasters and the promoters. I want a surprise. So you're right. I hope that's what they're doing, because I hate the leaks. The leaks are kind of getting boring and tiresome.
Do you remember the day of reckoning, the first press conference for that, right? There was a lot of, I think at the time with that, there was people saying, well, it's rumored for London, it's rumored for this, that, and the other. And literally, I think the Monday was the press conference. The Sunday, you saw like journalists saying, oh, here's Wilder's in London. So it's like, oh, come on, we know what's happening now. So you're kind of like thinking, like, wait, and then you're like, oh, well, we know what's happening. So you've ruined it. So now we're not surprised.
Yeah, the whole reveal, we knew the 5 versus 5. You could kind of, everyone was like, oh, that person. And I'm like, come on. Remember, they came in with all the hats on.
The mask
like,
on,
the mask on. I was like, just let it be. Like, why do you have to be the first to report it? Like, just let it be. So look, who knows what's going on with those two? Well, I guess like what we do when we put a video up early, they probably gain a few different tweets. So Twitter numbers, maybe that's what they're going for. Social media post. All right, Fabio Wardley versus Justin. By the way, guys, we're filming this on Wednesday evening, just because super busy for the next couple of days. But it was the press conference today for Fabio Wardley versus Justice Hooney. This is almost take 2, because they were there last month for Fabio Wardley versus Jerome Miller. So they're about to go back to Portman Road. I said risk reward. This is so risky for Fabio. I don't see much reward here, because not many people know how good Justice Hooney is. I think he's a good fighter, but like, if Fabio blows away Justice Hooney, it's like, okay, you beat that guy from Australia. Like, not many people know enough about Justice for Fabio to take this risk. I think this is very risky.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. I don't get this matchmaking other than Eddie versus Frank. That's the only way I can see it, because Justice Hooney, like, if you think of some of the names that were being talked about, even Lawrence Okoli, you can see how there be the villain versus the hero aspect. You can see how one would rile people, and the style of the fighters would gel, everything. This, it's like Justice Hooney doesn't have a style that you really particularly want to watch. He's very friendly, very easygoing. No one in the UK knows who he is. And you're looking and you're just thinking, well, you're already WBA mandatory. Hooney is highly ranked with the WBO. So, like, what do you gain? You just decide, all right, well, I'm going to pick which title I want to fight for. But you're not gaining necessarily. It's not like he's a world champion or he's got an interim belt that you could say, okay, it's worth doing it. But
you could argue that for Jerome Miller, though, couldn't you? The same sense, like, Jerome Miller doesn't have a lofty position in any ranking body either.
No, he doesn't. And again, likewise with that fight, I still kind of scratch my head. I loved it, but I still did kind of scratch my head with the matchmaking. The only difference being, I think that more people know who Jarrell Miller is from the Anthony Joshua thing that didn't happen, the Daniel Dubois performance. And at least that way you could say, well, if he's only lost to Daniel Dubois, who's a world champion, then how bad could he really be? You know, whereas Justice Hooney, no one knows who he is. And you said I've never really rated him. I thought against Kevin Ray, Yeah, I thought against Kevin Lerena, he was really he won the fight legit, but I was like, whoa, that was shocking. And there's been other performances where I've just been like, you know, you're there, but you're not gonna. I couldn't see him even being an FA Jagba. You know, that sort of top 15. I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he's quite got that. Not got that in his locker, I don't think. So I think for me, it's like, you don't beat him, well, then we really have some problems, especially if you're not hurting them.
Yeah, I think Fabio will get the job done. I didn't think Justice looked good against Kevin Lerena either. That being said, I mean, this is the Lerena that caused Dubois all sorts of problems as well. Let's not forget that. But I know Dubois was slightly injured, but Dubois went down like 3 or 4 times in that fight. So I just feel like this is risky for Fabio. But I'd rather Fabio stay busy and fight than just pause and not fight and they cancel Portman Road. But I would have preferred it to be in a Coley. Even a Michael Hunter, someone that we know and we can gauge and kind of brings a bit of trash talk to it as well, which is why I guess it's so important Eddie's there, because Eddie's happy to play the role of the villain. Eddie's like, I'll do that role, fine.
Yeah,
we'll make it Eddie versus Frank, as you said, as opposed to Fabio versus Justice.
Even Eddie and Frank did a face-off on the pitch. So they are really going with the whole Eddie versus Frank again. Man, Eddie can... How many L's has he taken now? He's bound to get a win back eventually. I don't know if it's going to be this time.
Yeah, I'm fascinated and just astonished how busy he is. I'm like, how does he even live? Like, honestly, there's fights in Mexico, there's fights in America, there's fights in Australia, there's fights in the UK. He literally must have a private jet on standby because he seems to be. He seems to be everywhere. It's incredible. Honestly, it's incredible. And now all of a sudden he's involved in this one.
I know, and there's times where like he's only just announced, he's going to be involved in that fight, and you're like, more travel? How do you do this? It's honestly, it is incredible to think these both guys, Frank and Eddie, whatever you want to say, they are workaholics. They will go they don't care.
100% workaholics. All right, let's talk about another Eddie fight this weekend at the Copper Bosch. That's what they're calling it now, right? The Copper Box, which is I like it in terms of a venue, 8,000 or 7,500. Are you going? Do you want me to get you a ticket? What are you doing?
Maybe. I probably will. I was going to ask you.
Better hurry up on this one, dude. You better hurry up on this.
I was going to ask you off stage, but yes, could you help me with that one?
I most certainly can. We'll sort it out a bit later. I'm hearing it's near a sellout as well now, so it's going to be a cracking atmosphere. Last time round, I've been very open on it. I think Dave Allen won. I think it's actually easy to score as well. I don't think it's controversial. I just think the rounds are actually quite easy. This isn't like, this is no. He won that round. He won that round. He won that round. He won that round. So they go again. I think second time round is going to be as tough for Johnny. I think this is going to be a tough fight. Dave Allen, Dave Allen's always been, are you motivated? Are you in shape? Unless you're way better than him. And Johnny clearly isn't way better than him. So if Dave Allen's in shape, he's a better boxer than Johnny. I think he can hit just as hard. This is going to be a tough ask for Johnny again, I think.
And he takes a better shot. Much better shot, Dave Allen. You said it best. The question is if he's in shape, if he's motivated. Because how often have we seen Dave Allen get sufficient time? And maybe he's not been significantly, below the fighter he's fighting, but he's just not doing what he needed to do. And he's made a fight sometimes harder than it needs to be, or lost. Like that Lenroy Thomas guy was knocked out in a round by Joe Joyce. Dave Allen's not as bad as he is, but he just wasn't in the right shape. And he ended up losing the fight he should have won. I think that was for a Commonwealth belt. I agree with you as well. The first time around, you can have a fight that's close, but it's easy to score. You can't give Johnny Fischer these rounds. You can only give him the Dave Allen and vice versa. Having said that, I think Fischer will learn a lot. I think Fischer was anxious first time around. I think he wanted to get rid of Dave Allen. He wanted to prove something. He blew his gas tank very early. He had nothing left in reserve after. And I think he was just worried about going down again. You could see how anxious he was after that. After he got dropped in that 5th round, man looked scared for the rest of that fight of the same thing happening again. And I think that burned out a lot of his energy. I think he's in the Copper Box in East London. It's not far from Romford. He'll feel a lot more comfy. Now that he knows he's been in there with the guy, he'll probably be a lot more wary about going for the jugular too quick. And I think he'll probably just nick it on points. But if he gets into a crisis again, I mean, all bets are off then.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the sort of what the game plan is here. Because do they go gun-ho again? Like when he sees an opportunity? Does he just go for it and try and knock him out? Or does he try and box? Because if he tries to box, Dave Allen's the better boxer. So it's going to be, they've got to be careful that you don't go 100 punches around, but if you see an opening, you're not scared to commit to it. Don't be scared to commit. He's got to be just fearless in that commitment to land the shot, but he's also got to be careful about what's coming back, because he knows now that he can be hurt, all right? And he knows that he can get put on his backside by Dave Allen as well. I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to be a back and forth little war between these two. I think there are going to be rounds where both of them look so shattered like they've run a fucking marathon. But I think, honestly, I think like rounds 8, 9, and 10, forget about it. Honestly, they're going to both be hanging on for dear life. But I did see Dave Allen a few weeks ago, and he's in shape. He's in shape. You know, he normally has a bit of a pot belly.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Well, it's not gone, but it certainly isn't as bad as it was when they fought first time round. Remember the first time round? I was like, this guy hasn't trained at all.
I thought that, yeah.
Yeah, this time I think he has trained, and I think I don't know, man. This could be one of those fights where, you look back and think, why did they fucking take the fight again? It could be one of those like, why did they do? They should have just avoided it and moved on.
But where do you go if you're Team Fischer, apart from Dave Allen? Because at the end of the day,
you go to the European market again. That's kind of what they've been doing. If you look at what they've done, they've really kind of got a few Europeans over. As opposed to maybe doing the Fraser Clark, David Adelaide, Jimmy TKV route. But I don't know, man. He's had 12 amateur fights. He's a former rugby player. It's not going to be easy, but I think he's got a good chance.
I think I'm picking him to win, but my kind of thing is, right, it's great. You're selling out these arenas. The Copper Box, I love the Copper Box. Me and you have been there. We know it well. But what do you do after if you win? Because I don't think you'll be able to get away with bringing guys over from Europe for another year. I think people know who Dave Allen is, and they're like, you know, in the nice way, if you get a European fighter with a record of, say, 10-1, people are going to be like, who is this? He's not as good as Dave Allen. We want to see him in there against the likes of TKV and stuff like that. And I don't think he may never be ready for those kind. So I just kind of look at this and think, you could get through Dave Allen, but where does the ball stop with you? Because I don't know how high or how low it is. It's strange.
No, we're here for the journey. We're here for the journey. And until that journey stops, again, we've seen fighters where we think that they have a ceiling, and all of a sudden they just burst through that ceiling. Again, we spoke about Leigh Wood earlier. Leigh Wood for many years was British level, and all of a sudden he's one of the best featherweights in the world. So who knows how it could play out? All right, well, we'll end on this. It's now been confirmed, July 12th, the Edgar Balanga Hamza Shiraz card will take place at the Louis Armstrong Stadium in New York. It's a tennis stadium, which is very interesting, actually. By the way, it's got a roof as well, which could be important. And it's 14,000 capacity, which I think is a really good capacity. Like 14,000 is almost like the perfect number, I think, for a really loud venue. Tennis courts, I don't think tennis courts have ever been used before for a boxing venue, but they're trying something different. There was a lot of talk about Central Park. I'm guessing that just became a bit stupid, like too much. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. Let's just go to an arena/stadium, and that's the one they picked.
Outdoor event, Queens, New York. I don't mind this because I think, as we said last week, they tried Times Square. It ain't working. We don't want to see that again. This is a good in between. I think this would be good. 14,000 screaming fans, so the atmosphere would be a lot more lively. See, when do we ever see shows in Queens? It's always Brooklyn or Manhattan. Yeah. So I don't mind. Let's change it. Let's do Queens. Let's do maybe not the Bronx, but let's do one of the different boroughs. And I like this. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, and obviously Edgar Balanga from New York as well. So, and Shakur Stevenson from New Jersey, which is not too far. So it should sell out. I mean, that's the kind of card. Again, we got Alberto Puello versus Abreu Matias that no one seems to be talking about on it. Davin Morel's back as well. So I think it's a great card. And it's going to get all the bells and whistles, all the treatment from sort of Ring Magazine Riyadh season. So that should be fun. G-Man, there you go. Another one in the books.
Another one in the books. They go by so quick, but they're so fun to do, man. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure indeed. We'll be back next week. Obviously, we'll be looking back on what I think will be a great fight between Johnny Fischer and Dave. And as always, like, there will be some boxing news next week, because there's always something that happens in this crazy sport of boxing. All right, don't forget as well, if you're still here, please, hopefully you're still here, Gman's channel, the link is in the description. We are trying to get him to 25,000 sooner rather than later. So if you've not subscribed to his channel, please do subscribe to the channel. And you know what to do with this video as well. Like it, share it, leave a comment. It all helps. Peace.